Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and as the title might have given it away, this is unprecedented. It's unheard of, it's unimaginable, and just a ton of other unstarting words. This is probably the first army in 40k that I have no ambition to collect, and it's just one that overall it's just not interesting me like in the slightest. And this is very strange for me because literally every other 40k army that has come out, at least at some point I have looked at it and been like, it could be fun to play, or it could be fun to collect or kit bash, but there's something about this new squat line that is just not doing it for me. Now, what I'd said previously, maybe that was a little bit of an exaggeration. There are certainly some cool elements of it, and there is some things that I don't mind, but overall as a force, it's just really not doing it for me. Now, obviously, if you feel differently than that, that is totally fine. Everyone's welcome to their own opinions, but I was just going to share what about it is not doing it for me, and then also how I would go about improving it, and if I did want to make this army, what I would do to make it more to my liking, so that maybe if you're in a similar boat where maybe you like the rules, or like you like the idea of the cool space dwarves, but you're not super stoked on the models, then maybe you can take some of these ideas and use them for yourself. So I think the main thing is, and I've talked about this in previous videos before, especially ones where I talk about kit bashing like a whole Kroot army or something, the way an army overall feels and looks, like the vibe of the whole force, is very important. You can have standout cool models, but if it doesn't all gel together, and if it doesn't all like tell a story, or tell the story that you're wanting, then it's going to bug you eventually. So like when I'm making my Kroot models or a Kroot kit bash or something as part of it, I really take time to think about, okay, how does this go together with the whole force, and does it show the idea that's in my head? Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to, not reenact, but we've got an idea in our head of what it should look like. If you're like, oh, the theme of my army is that they're fighting on, they're on a desert planet, and they've got junked together kind of kit bashed vehicles, and they've stolen parts from things, like that should kind of translate all the way through. Like, and obviously that doesn't apply to everything. If you've got a squeaky clean ultramarine army, then just forget everything I'm saying. So the reason that the vibe or the feel of this army isn't doing it for me, and it's not that they aren't cool looking models, or that I, in a different world maybe I would like them. The reason I don't like them is because they literally look to me way too much like Space Marines. Like if they all had their helmets on and they were just, even if it was a few years ago, like before Primaris, and they were just like, these are the new Space Marines, like it's very indistinguishable from Astartes armor in a lot of cases. Like especially you look at like different Terminator pattern armors, and even more so like the different like knockoff brand Space Marine models for different war games and whatnot. That's what these look like to me. They don't, when I think of like squats from 40k lore, I think of a lot more of like a mining aesthetic. I think of like dirty, grimy. I was picturing things with like drills, and these are like, they're super hardy and resilient, but they're more about like their crafting and their mining. These guys literally look like they're just like big, heavily armored Space Marine shock troops. Oh, and here's our normal shock troops that are super heavily armored, just like a Space Marine. Oh, and here's our even bigger, more heavily armored shock troops, so like a Terminator. And oh, here's our Land Raider type thing. And here's our attack bike type thing. Like, it just looks like a Space Marine Army 2.0 that's slightly shorter to me. Now, again, as I'm saying, like, it's like the models look good, they look cool, but to me, it's not at all like what it's not unique. It just looks like Space Marines 2.0. Like they could have gone a really crazy weird route with the squats. When they said squats were coming, I was picturing like an Imperial Guard expansion, kind of like Scions, where you could have like half your army be squats, and I was picturing like heavy mining vehicles and rigs, things with big drills and melta cutters, and blasting charges, and I'm picturing them in more like modified mining gear, not like super advanced high-tech power armor. and maybe that could be like a special unit or some of the characters, but it's literally the whole army. And it's just like, I don't know. And then on top of that, like, I first of all, I have no problem with like female dwarves. Obviously, there should be, or not female dwarves, female squats. Obviously, there should be female squats. But, and I've seen other people say these don't look like dwarf heads, or they don't look like squat heads. Like, they just look like human heads on a body that's just ever so slightly, shorter or squatted. So, like, they don't even really look like space dwarves. They just look like slightly hunched over people. And so it's just like, it just goes back to that, like, they just look like a different version of something we already have. And like, and so my one point, not to be all negative or whatever, like, I do think some of the vehicles look cool, like their version of the Land Raider with the big wheels kind of looks like a big Mars rover type thing. Like, I do think that they look pretty cool. It's still not like what I was expecting or wanting from the squat army, but it is unique enough that I do think it looks cool. Now, how would I go about fixing the squats / changing them to fit more with what I imagine a good space dwarf aesthetic to be? So right off the bat, and this is probably super obvious, I'm liking the Ironhead Prospectors a lot for any future squat kit bashes. So this, for anyone that doesn't know, is the new Necromunda gang of squats. Now these guys are like desert mining squats or wasteland mining squats, so they have, in my opinion, a much better space dwarf aesthetic. They still have a lot of the like future tech that we see in these Leagues of Votann, but they look more equipped for the mining. They're more like rugged looking, and to me that just it's more unique. It's a better flavor for space dwarves rather than just making them short space marines. So I think that getting a couple kits of that and then mixing that in with your Leagues of Votann parts would probably go a long way. Specifically, I'm liking I'm liking the look of these guys' bodies a lot better. They're less chunky while looking more like practical, if that makes sense. So what I would say is, you take the weapons from the Leagues of Votann and give it to these guys. Now your other option that's probably super obvious is anything with the Kharadron Overlords. I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot, honestly, when they made the Kharadron Overlords, because these look like space dwarves. Like, these look like cooler space dwarves. They're all in power armor, but it's super ornate, intricate. They've got the awesome like sculpted beard armor, so that you can tell that like these are dwarves. They look like futuristic sci-fi dwarves, whereas the Leagues of Votann don't. They just look like another flavor of Space Marine. So as far as I'm aware, all of the Kharadron Overlord kits, the heads are removable from them. So what I would do is I would just get a bunch of those kits and again mix and match them with your Leagues of Votann stuff. And what you can do is you can either just buy extra of them, or a cheaper method would be to make some super simple blue stuff molds and then just duplicate a whole bunch of those heads. And at the very least, if you're using some of their bodies and then a bunch of their heads across your army, which I think that the Leagues of Votann are a pretty elite army, so you're only going to need maybe like 30-40 troops total. So I mean, I think it's pretty easy to see that there's a lot of options here between mixing the Kharadron Overlords or the Ironhead Prospectors if you want that more modern like actual 40k Space Dwarf vibe. Mixing those in with your Leagues of Votann. The unfortunate part is if you do that, you're going to end up with a lot of extra Leagues of Votann stuff. But I do think you would have a lot more unique looking Space Dwarf army or squat army. So there's probably, it might honestly be better to just get Kharadron Overlord kits and then find a way, whether you're 3D printing or whatever, just try to get the weapons separately from them. Like, I don't know how the Leagues of Votann kits are going to be set up, but there might be an abundance of extra weapon bits you can buy. Now, the troops are only half the battle, the other half being all of their different vehicles and whatnot. Now, I said earlier, I actually don't mind the Leagues of Votann vehicles, just because they are fairly unique looking. Now, again, nothing about them really screams squat though. Like, it's just like a different weird Imperial type vehicle. Like, if you told me this was a new Necromunda vehicle, I'd just be like, okay, cool. Like, the guns are a little bit different, but other than that, it's nothing that crazy. So I think what we could do is we could use them, and we could trick them out to be more like mining rigs, more like, you know, these utility vehicles that also be used for war. And what I think could work really well is any of the Genestealer cults vehicles, especially their like the rock grinder with the drill on the front. I think that itself could work as like their whatever their mid-sized vehicle is, the Leagues of Votann. I had the image of it popping up earlier. I have it pop up again right now. I think it could work as that. I think they're about the same size. Or, and this is probably what I would say, is just to give it that extra bit of flavor, you can very easily find extras of that drill plow front and mix that in. Now, if you want to go a little bit more extreme and you've got some extra money, I think any of the what are they called? I forget what it's called. The breacher drill vehicle that Astartes can have. I think that could make a really cool Leagues of Votann vehicle. I don't know what it could represent, but I know it is quite big. So maybe it could be their version of the land fortress thing. You'd have to obviously completely kit bash that out with all the different weapons and whatnot, but I think that could work as a Leagues of Votann kit bash, and it would look really cool. A cheaper version of that, I think it's cheaper anyway, is to get the Genestealer cults have a great big drill terrain piece thing. So you could also look into that as well. The point is that there's a lot of like mining, you know, heavy machinery drill type kits available. There's various different terrain kits that come with like big cranes and claw arms and things. And especially for the vehicles, I don't think it would take a crazy amount of work to get more of that sort of, you know, space dwarf mining centered people that at least me and I think some other people were hoping for more from, you know, the return of the squats. If you look at their old lore, like, or in their old artwork and stuff, they're like these like scruffy, you know, underground, you know, grizzled dudes or you know, people, and they've got things like their crazy like land train, and their various vehicles and things are all very like rugged and mechanical, and like I think there's a way they could have done it where they look like more advanced than some of the Imperial stuff, even like that they're wanting to do, without having to make it just like a copy of, in my opinion, like another Space Marine style army. Like, there's nothing really here that's like, oh, that's so amazing and different. Like, you know, the Eldar have all their jet bikes, you know, the Genestealers are very like, you know, they're like a cult, they're underground, all their stuff is like stolen, you know, mining equipment and stuff, which is kind of actually like what I'm thinking would have been better for the squats, is more of that style. But like, I don't know, it's hard to describe, like a more clean and advanced version of that, whereas like, you know, the Genestealer is like stolen normal human worker stuff, so, you know, the squats obviously would have different things than that. But then, you know, like I said, the Eldar have the jet bikes, the Necrons have obviously all their like living robot things, you know, the Orcs have their ramshackle stuff, the Tyranids are living things. Like, there's a niche in there that the squats could have filled, and I just feel like they've just kind of went with more of the same for them. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think of the squats, whether you think, you know, I'm totally out of left field. Go ahead and let me know down below whether you like them, whether you hate them. Let me know what you think. As always, guys, if you want to support the channel, the Patreon link is down below, and I'll have more for you guys very soon. Bye for now.